Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live Money Yusuf at Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition, heated exchanges characterized day one of Supreme Court's hearing of two cases filed against the anti-LGBTQ plus bill as Chief Justice allows full media coverage.
Also, Catholic Bishops' Conference worried about the failure by state agencies to educate the public about the dangers of LGBTQ activities.
Also, we have an update on day two of Electoral Commission's limited voter registration exercise after an initial glitch yesterday.
And much later on the program, Ghana Health Service allays fears over the withdrawal of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines worldwide due to rare blood clot concerns.
We have details coming up shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 in business. Societe Generale Ghana exit rumors not coming from group head in France. That's according to the managing director of Societe Generale Ghana. We have details of that shortly here on Hot Edition, and a number of reactions coming through as well to the president's statement of not wanting to hand over to John Mahama because he fears his legacy will be destroyed. All of that coming up on Campaign Trail here on your Election Command Center. As always, within the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. We're streaming live on Facebook at 3FM927 on Facebook and also on X at 3FM927 on X. You can share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions with us. Read out to you and to the rest of the world. Lord Edwasari is here with a summary of the news. Lord.
Thank you, Alfred. To the summaries now, the Supreme Court has directed lawyers of journalist Richard Delaskai seeking to prevent President Akrofi from assenting to the Human and Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the Anti-Gay Bill, to submit a fresh motion with supporting affidavit and statement of case for an injunction related to the substantive suit. The 5-member panel of the Apex Court, chaired by Justice Gertrude Tokonu, also set a deadline of May 17 for the lawyers of the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General to file their respective processes. Here's another story. A member of the Electoral Commission, Reverend Ekia Ofori-Boateng, has called on God to intervene in resolving the technical challenges plaguing the ongoing voter registration exercise. Reverend Ekia Boateng offered the prayer on May 8, which is today, when she visited the Ayawaso West District Office of the EC, where she witnessed technical challenges in the voter registration process at first hand. Also, the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, former President Dramani Mahama, has replied to President Akufo-Addo on the latter's comment that he, Mr. Mahama, would destroy Mr. Akufo-Addo's legacies, hence should not be voted for in the 2024 general elections. Mr. Mahama, in a post on his X platform, stated, quote, "Of course, I will not protect your legacy of corruption, misgovernance, arrogance, ineptitude, bankrupt economy, increased unemployment, and pushing more of our people into the poverty bracket." Finally, the managing director of Societe Generale Ghana, Hakim Uzani, has described the media reports that the bank is exiting Ghana as rumors. Mr. Uzani said that the report did not come from the bank. He assured that the bank remains committed to its group strategy to strengthen its capital base since 2023. That's it for the summaries of the day, Alfred.
And this morning is on 3news.com.
Indeed.
Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition. We go straight to the courts, and there was a lot of activity there. Beatrice.
Indeed there was, and the Supreme Court has adjourned the case against the anti-LGBTQ bill indefinitely. The Apex Court on Wednesday, May 8th, that's today, held the view that the document presented to it by the Speaker of Parliament contained intemperate language. The court therefore directed the lawyers of the Speaker, Thaddeus Sori, to file a new document. Prior to the adjournment, the court had dismissed the preliminary objection by the lawyer for the Speaker of Parliament, Thaddeus Sori, in the case against the anti-LGBTQI bill. Now, when the court sat to hear the case, lawyers for Bocas journalist Richard Sky, who filed the case, sought to amend one of the reliefs on the motion for injunction. Journalist and lawyer Richard Delaskai and researcher Dr. Amanda Odoi found different cases challenging the constitutionality of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2024. Let's listen to what transpired in court during the hearing of Richard Sky's injunction application.
If you have nothing to say.
No, I have something to say against the submission that is made. Which is that, based on the practice that we all took you from in terms of the course direction, the Attorney General filed no process indicating his objection to what is scandalous, what is matters of law this morning, in order to enable us all prepared to come and take this point.
I beg your pardon.
There's a second point.
I will not note you down. Thank you.
There's a second point. The second point is that, apart from saying they are scandalous and all, which are the words that are scandalous, which ones plead matters of law? So if my lady would, or in the court would exercise is.
Can I manage my court?
Oh, I was just making a submission.
Can I manage my court?
Very well, my lady.
The suggestion of counsel for first defendant and orders the plaintiff applicant to file a fresh motion paper with supporting affidavit and statement of case. Plaintiff is also given leave to address any matters of fact and issues of law in the new process. Plaintiff applicant is given up to 17th of May. So now you have moved from 9th to 17th of May. Up to 17th of May, 2024 to further new processes. Counsel for defendants are given 7 days after service on them to file any processes that they may wish to.
Now, when Dr. Amanda Odoi's case was called, her lawyer, Dr. Ernest Akrofi, raised objections to what he described as intemperate language used by lawyer for the Speaker of Parliament, Thaddeus Sore, in his document before the court.
Difficulty? What's that difficulty?
Lady, on the 22nd of March 2024, the first defendant respondent filed an affidavit in opposition. And then on the 30th of April 2024, they filed a supplementary affidavit in opposition without leave of the court. And my lady, a very close look at the supplementary affidavit, apart from being filed without the leave of the court, contains very strong language and statements that are prejudicial to the case of the plaintiff applicant. And Lord, my lady, we feel that we should be given an opportunity to respond, but especially when in paragraphs 12, 14, and 20, there are allegations of collusion, lack of candor, suppression of facts. But these are very strong statements that we think we should be afforded an opportunity to respond to.
So, if it's scandalous, ought not to stand, what do you want?
Lady, we want either the court strikes.
You either say something or you don't.
Lady, we're saying that the court should either strike it out or the first defendant does the honorable thing.
Are you going to finish your sentence?
Lady, I'll finish by saying that he does the honorable thing by either withdrawing the supplementary affidavit or taking steps to correct what is not supposed to be in there.
So now you don't want the leave to respond to it.
You see, Doctor, if you have an objection, say so. Tell us what you're objecting to. Tell me what you want me to do. Then I can do it. But it's inappropriate to get up and just make comments and sit down. What do you want from the court?
Apologies, Lady, what we want from the court is that the supplementary affidavit filed on the 30th of April was done without the leave of the court. That sins against the rules of court.
Which rule?
And you heard that interaction between the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, and the lawyer for Dr. Amanda Odoi, that's Dr. Ernest Akrofi. Let's bring you some more, because after proceedings, Pa Kwesi Abedu, who is lawyer for Richard Delaskai, engaged the media. Hear what he said.
He has an unfettered right to amend, and if you don't do that, and the matter proceeds by the motion, you risk a very big chance. And that's what we didn't want to go through. So to us, it was a proper review and the correction were in order.
And you heard Pakwesi Abedu, who is lawyer for Richard Delasky, speaking to the media after proceedings in court today. Alfred.
There's a lot that happened, and in fact, it generated a lot of conversation as we speak with the proceedings in court on this matter. So, May 17 is a date to watch, but Martin Pebble, private legal practitioner, and one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country, has been following this case every step of the way. He's joining us here on the telephone right now. Martin Pebble, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Ocansey.
Yeah, I know this is a case that you as well, just as many of us, you followed on television, this televised case. Supreme Court has granted the application by Richard Delasky to amend his reliefs in this suit challenging the constitutionality of Parliament in passing this Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, the anti-gay bill. So what's going to happen next? How does this really impact on the path that this case will take going forward?
Okay, so this is at least one step forward. So you see how the last guy had to ask for permission to make changes to his case. Some of the phrases did not appear well, okay? And so the document didn't read well. So once he wasn't reading well, it was time for him to take steps to make those corrections. And that's what Lawyer Abedu has asked for. So once the corrections are done, then they would deal with the matter of the injunction. So if you look at the timelines the court gave, if everything goes according to plan, they could be back in court anytime from middle of next month. Yes, that's if only everybody is minded to move the case forward quickly. I say so because when you follow the timelines the court gave, it enables them, or it gives room for them to go back to court anytime from 15th of next month. That's assuming all the panel members are in country, if they don't travel, etc. So now let me explain further. This is it. So the court said Mr. Sky should file the amendment, refile his application, and then also amend the rate, his case, by 17th of May. So once that is done on the 17th of May, you need a few days to take those documents that Mr. Sky is taking back to court, the documents that will be delivered to the court. You need the messengers to take them and go and give lawyer sorry, and give Attorney General, okay? So that should take anywhere maybe 2-3 days if they follow up. If they don't follow up, sometimes it can take 2 weeks before it will get done. So assuming that Sky is very eager to have the case done quickly, the case heard quickly by the Supreme Court, they'll follow up. And so let's give 4 days maximum for the documents to be taken to Attorney General and lawyer Thaddeus Sorry. So that takes us to 21st of May. Now, so when these lawyers also receive the document, then they are also to respond within 7 days. So if you add 7 to 21st, that should take us to 28th of May. So by 28th of May, they should bring their response to the Supreme Court registry, not to the judges themselves, but to the administrative staff, that's the registrar and his people. So if they bring them on 28th of May, give a few days, this response will be, the copies will be given to the judges, and then Lawyer Abedu, Lawyer Abedu. So he will get Thaddeus Sorry's response and then Godfrey Dame's response. So let's say by 2nd June, if it's a working day latest, they should get those documents. So we have the rest of June for them to apply for the court to call them to return. So you see why I said any time from 15th of June to the end, if they really are taking steps and following up keenly, the case can be recalled within this time. Otherwise, it goes to July. And once it goes to July, not much can be done in July, and then we have to go on the legal vacation. So if they deal with the injunction even in July, then maybe when we return in October, they can then go into the substantive matter. So you are looking at this case taking not less than 6 months to complete. No, there's no it's not likely it can be done in less than 6 months, because the whole of August, September, and effectively the first 2 weeks of October will be on legal vacation.
Wow, it's a very interesting point you make. So you're saying that this case cannot be completed within a 6 months period, correct?
No.
Okay.
No. It's from the calculations I'm doing. You need more than 6 months.
More than 6 months, as if you take into consideration the legal vacation, which is about sometime 2 months, right? Two months.
So call it 2.5.
2.5 months. But the timeliness of this case is of the essence. I mean, the courts, as you indicated, legal vacation is ahead. There's election as well. And also considering the public interest in this matter, if this bill is not assented to before this 8th Parliament comes to an end on the dawn of January 6th into January 7, 2025, the entire process of this bill being accepted, in fact, being passed by Parliament, would have come to naught. It would have to start again in the life of the next Parliament. So, really, there's been proposal for a special court to be instituted to help in the speedy trial of these cases, so that we get to see this bill being accented into law before the end of this Parliament. Is it one that you would recommend?
Yeah, so special court. Why not? Justice emanates from the people. And so if the courts are quite great and very distinct and, very genuine, that citizens want this case heard in the shortest possible time, I'm sure the Chief Justice will accede to that request. Yes. So, and already I know in times past, or in the not too distant past, there are a lot of clergy have added their voices about getting this bill passed, or let me say this law signed by President Akufo-Addo. Yeah, so if the advocacy continues, it's likely. But as you would also remember, there's also the other side, our standing in the international community. Because of the, for now, for lack of a better word, let me call it the geopolitics. Yeah, so it makes it also quite tight that it shouldn't be a situation where the court is just being railroaded to say that, yes, the bill, or let's say the law, it's good. The president can sign it. It's really complex. You remember the letter the Minister of Finance wrote saying that the government may not get certain financial assistance, loans, and etc. from the World Bank and the IMF, but later it was proven that those are actually false. Since in Uganda, etc., the IMF didn't use those as conditionality, because Uganda passed their law, and yet they still have an IMF program which is going on. So some of these things we'll just wait. We'll have to take our time to see how it goes.
I see. On the issue of language, in fact, that's another thing that came up because this language with the Supreme Court earlier, they expressed concern about the language employed by both the plaintiff and the Speaker of Parliament's legal team. And Justice Tokonov, the Chief Justice, for instance, deemed it as inappropriate and scandalous, specifically mentioning the term "these persons," quote unquote, "these persons," used by the plaintiff to refer to the private members. And then also she highlighted the use of despicable and desecration in the Speaker of Parliament's lawyers' proceedings in terms of some of the pronouncement that he made in court today. Is it one that really, how much of an impact is this issue of language and some of the word used in court as highlighted in this case?
Oh, yes. Language is very essential. It's a critical part of the case, because for lawyers, language is our tool. That's the medium through which we express the argument, etc. So language is very important. So once you find that the court is not happy with certain words, usually as lawyers, we try to steer off those words and to do what the court recommends, right, or the court directs. So you see that in the proceedings, once the court indicated to lawyer sorry that they were not happy with the words despicable, etc. He said he didn't argue because, we are communicating. And in effective communication, you have to be sure that the person you are talking to understands you and you're carrying the person along. So if the person says, I don't like these words, I don't like that word, they know that, hey, there's a challenge. So usually we don't quibble that much about it because you are careful, because you are trying to persuade the person. You see, and persuading a judge is not just about the hard law. There's also soft laws and certain factors that are not just written in black and white, but the way you carry yourself, the comportment, etc. Those are also very, very, very important. So usually if a judge is complaining about certain words and phrases, we try to, take those out so that we don't incur the wrath of the judge. So you see that if you follow, you didn't see lawyer sorry making arguments that no, I think I can use those words. I think those words are appropriate. No, there was no such resistance from him, at least not the part that I followed. And I think I followed those parts. He said, my Lord, okay, we'll take steps. Yes, that's what he kept saying. So that should be fine going into the future. Hopefully those words will be taken out and then the case can go on.
In fact, you're right. We didn't put up any resistance. And if you can indulge me, let me play that interaction, or maybe you would say the exchange on this matter of language in court earlier today.
And indeed, I find it very indecorous for some language to be used in affidavit. We are all supposed to be gentlemen at the bar. And if indeed you file any process, the words in the processes are actually addressed to the court. And therefore, there's a need for us to always avoid unnecessary whipping up of public sentiment by the use of scandalous language and all that. And you saw it. It's actually in the rules of court. I pointed it out to the court that the rules of court even frown upon the use of scandalous and insulting words. And I'm happy that the court also took exception to that.
Oh, that's Godfred Dame there. And it appears that this live telecast is going to do some good, is it not?
Absolutely. Just like the last election petition, not this one, the 2012 election petition did. You know that one, since it took us about 9 months for the Supreme Court to hear that case, people kept complaining that, no, this case is taking too long. And you see that after it, the Rules of Court Committee came out with new rules and reduced the timelines and effectively brought it to about 42 days, right? Yes, so in the same way, I'm expecting that with this case, the public reaction, the sentiments, and all the feedback will help us move our law forward, because there are a lot of areas you would find that our law is out of date, it's a bit backward, and so as we interface with the public and people see and comment and and share and like and dislike, it will help bring about legal reforms, because we need more cameras and more courts to help, because as people follow the proceedings, we all learn, even including us as lawyers, we all learn. So it's good. It's going to help our democracy.
Counsel, I do appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us, because a fundamental issue you raise is about the timelines for this case and how it's going to proceed in court. And Beatrice, that's one of the interests, is it not?
Indeed.
Because looking at the heightened public interest in this case, getting to know from counsel, Lawyer Martin Pebble, that if things proceed, all things being equal from what we're seeing now, this case may not be completed within the next 6 months.
And that's where it becomes tricky.
Absolutely.
When Parliament resumes from recess.
And if the courts are going to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And obviously that would lead us into the election year, because that's two and a half months. And that will lead us into sometime in November.
Are they going to have time to look at a bill that Sabokujeto doesn't think we need to be too...
Well, anyway. You
okay, so let's hear the Attorney General when he asked for the live telecast of this whole court proceedings.
Yes, I am satisfied. Yes, I'm satisfied with it. And I think that it's something that I've always been urging. If you recall, about 2 years ago, one of my speeches to the Ghana Bar Association actually made a point that indeed, if the media were to have full and unhindered access to proceedings and all, it becomes so clear to the general public that when rulings are given by the court, they're actually on account of principles of law, and indeed most of the rulings of the court are right. I have suffered a lot personally in terms of the misrepresentation of court rulings and deliberate misrepresentation of what I say in court and what I do and all that. So I thought that the best way to avoid any undue misrepresentation of facts is to ensure transparency. Let the public indeed have unhindered access to it. Proceedings to the court, of course, in terms of the Constitution and the court acts, are open to the public. But the public goes way beyond the number who can enter the courtroom. So I think that a proper interpretation of the Constitution and all that would really require that when some of these politically sensitive matters and matters of enormous public interest come up for hearing, indeed, the media ought to have full access. It doesn't have to be only the presidential election petition, which occurs every 4 years or so, that the media should be able to cover. And I'm very, very grateful to Her Ladyship the Chief Justice for, in no time, acceding to my request and all. And I think that all I wanted to achieve was to ensure that people do not misrepresent what goes on in the court. They see exactly what went on. And today you saw it. So the process filed by some lawyers very defective and all that. And indeed, in such circumstances, if the court were to rule against them, nobody should be surprised. Many a time, people lose on account of violations of the rules of court themselves, and then they go out there and say that justice or injustice was meted out to them. We see clearly arguments advanced by both parties for and against every application that is made in court, and of course, usually the court graciously, even sometimes bends its way to overlook certain rules of the court and even allow the applications. And so we saw justice in action today. And that's what I'm most delighted by.
And that was the Attorney General, Godfred Dami, explaining the necessity for broadcasting this court proceedings live. And indeed, we had a witness of that today.
Indeed, we did. And following it every step of the way and how today's proceedings ended, we'll see how things play out on May 17th. And that's the day toward. But even beyond what happened in court today, within the courtroom, a number of renowned lawyers have been talking about this even before today. You sat with Samokujato, who was a member of the Council of State.
Yes.
And also a very renowned lawyer in this country. He's had some very controversial positions on some of the issues, including Cecilia Adapa and so on. But this anti-LGBTQ plus bill, you asked a question of him.
He doesn't think that it should have even come to the fore for public discussion because we've got corruption and other important issues to deal with than what people do behind closed doors.
That's what he said, that
yes. The
anti-LGBTQ plus bill is not important.
In fact, he says it's nonsense. Those are his words.
Let's hear from him. That exclusive interview that Beatrice had with him.
Where a man and woman go and sleep in their bedroom, is that my business? Is that my business what they do in their bedroom? How does that affect the economy? How does that put food out of my mouth? Does that affect my education? So I have a different view altogether.
So this bill is useless?
I think the whole concept to me, it is completely out of the issue because we have preoccupied, we even tried to induce the churches. They are all running around, sign the LGBT. I wanted to ask them a simple question, and you help me there. I will ask them, all the sins which are listed in the Bible, what have they been doing about it? The LGBT is the only one they've seen. We talk about corruption also. And corruption, I will tell you what, from the messenger to the top, every one of us is involved.
So when you say the whole concept, what exactly do you mean?
What do I mean? What I'm trying to say is that we have so much obsessed ourselves with this question about LGBT. We thought nothing else matters. It was as if, as I told one big Osofo, it's as if war has been waged against Ghana. And so all of us must mobilize ourselves to defend ourselves.
But the president has a choice to sign.
No, please, I'm not concerned. That's the president's business, not my business. That is the president's business. You can't even ask me that question. No. In the position in which I occupy, don't ask me. But I'm just telling you my personal view. I am telling you my personal view on this whole issue. As soon as they raise it like that, I asked myself, I said, the problem which are rising, you walk around, you see the young children running around the street. They have not gone to school. When in the early 60s, there were laws to say that compulsory education. that every child must go to school. We see them running around, begging, nothing. You see people living in filthy areas. Sometimes, what's his name, a container where a whole family is sleeping. We don't look at that and say that these are things which are wrong in our country. What do we do about it? And then we are preoccupied about a man sleeping with a man or a woman sleeping with a woman as being a national issue for which all of us are in arms. So this is what I am saying.
Yes, so the question I was asking was, and of course you are not the president like you said, you're not the one to sign.
No.
But you've been a member of parliament before.
I have been.
So why would an AG advise the president, don't even bring it?
If you think the AG is wrong, use the law against him.
You don't think so?
I say use it against, that's not me. That's not my business.
But you don't think so? You know the parliamentary rules.
No, but I am just telling you that for me, the whole thing about LGBT is a nonsense issue. It should not have become in the first place. And I'm saying that the problems which are facing the country are numerous. We can all work together to try and resolve them and solve them gradually, because it's not one day affair. It's a multifarious problem. Let us not sidetrack ourselves.
Should we throw this bill away then?
I think we are sidetracking ourselves. You don't get it. Please don't ask me about the LGBT bill, what Parliament has not done. I'm just saying that I'm expressing my personal view that as soon as this matter arose and people were screaming and churches were getting, and I said, what's wrong with our people? I say, I read my Bible. I study my Bible all the time. And I know about sin. What happened? What happened to the Jews when they were taken into exile? Was it about LGBT? No. It was in the injustice in the system. That was the reason why God punished them.
But if I'm glad you talked about the Bible, and just wrapping up our conversation, the Bible is very clear on it. If you're going by the arguments of the Bible.
I am saying that there are numerous sins. You didn't hear me. There are numerous sins named in the Bible. If you talk about homosexuality, it's only one aspect of it. Why should that one become the predominant issue that the whole nation is in arms, screaming and shouting? That is my issue.
Your final words.
Now, that's an exclusive interview that my colleague right here, Beatrice, had with a member of the Council of State, renowned lawyer Samuel Kujato, and he used some strong words there.
Yes, he did.
Against this anti-LGBTQ plus bill.
Yes.
Which Parliament has approved.
He's asking whether it affects your education, does it?
But that's anyway, but I mean, it's his view. Okay? I mean, that's his opinion, but the concern, and I get it, that shortly we'll be joined by Adam Senanu and the others who are also persons who have been supporting this bill. They are the Advocates for Christ. That's one of the groups.
Adam Senanu is with, yes.
And he talked about the religious angle as well. Samukujeto, makes that argument. But he is a member of the Council of State, and they're going to advise the president, right, on this matter.
Yes.
So that's where the
I think the members of the Council of State have always said that advice is just advice. The president doesn't necessarily have to take what we tell him to do.
Adam Senanu is joining us in a bit on this matter. Shortly, we'll have a conversation with him and here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. But you know what? You are an integral part of this conversation as well. Let's hear from you. On Facebook, we're streaming live on Facebook at 3FM 927 on Facebook, and also on X at 3FM 927. A number of your messages coming through already, including the Catholic Bishops' Conference that has issued a statement on this bill. What are they saying?
Yes, it seems they are contradicting what Council is saying. They are saying that they've actually raised concerns about the failure by the state agencies to educate the public about the dangers of LGBTQ activities. The Moral Society in Ghana has been the main advocate for the controversial bill that bans activities of lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender, and such sexual orientations, as well as their promotion. Now, according to the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Gyamfi, the fact that the bill is now a subject of litigation does not stop an institution like fight the National Commission on Civic Education, NCCE, from educating the public on the dangers of LGBTQ activities?
Well, thank you for this, and we'll get into the last part of that statement. Adam Senanu is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, but for this conversation, he is one of the leaders of the Advocates for Christ. Advocates for Christ is one of the groups that also supported the proponents or the persons, the MPs who filed this private members motion on this bill. He's joining us on the telephone. Senator, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Hot Edition. You did not hear Sam Okujeto talking about this anti-LGBTQ plus bill. He's a member of the Council of State. Apart from what we had a conversation on last night, he's also talked about the anti-LGBTQ plus bill. He says it's useless. In fact, he says that it doesn't affect our education. There are better issues to talk about in this country than waste the nation's time on this anti-LGBTQ plus bill. Listen.
Well, Mr. Uncle Sam seems to be, and it's not unlike him, taking a stance which does not align with what the majority of people believe. Clearly, his reality is different from ours. All of us, the majority of us, have a position, and we believe that this bill is important for posterity and for maintaining the social-cultural values and as well as religious values of our nation.
Mr. Sedanu, so one major point he makes is that there are a lot of sins in the Bible, so many of them. Why is the Christian community singling out homosexuality, which is just one of many?
A very good question. What it means is that he has not followed the trajectory of this issue. I always give credit to one Mr. Akrofi Donko, 31st January 2020, I believe, or 2021, who opened the so-called LGBTQ Resource Center together with two foreign ambassadors. And they said they were going to be promoting these activities in our country. Nothing had happened prior to that. When this group decided that, look, they had the audacity to say that this is what they're going to do and that they're going to start doing advocacy and whatnot, it then woke us up that if we did not act very soon, our children will be corrupted and we're going to see a lot of dangers. So please, it's not about the Christian community picking one thing. We don't have armed robbers saying that they're opening a resource center. We don't have marijuana smokers saying they're opening a resource center. If people will not check the historical record and just want to lay blame, that is challenging. But that's not the point. This came up because a particular group of people said they were going to promote their activities and lifestyle amongst the nation. And we said that that is not acceptable.
Thankfully, Mr. Senanu, you are also a leading member of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. It's one of the points he makes as well, that we've been dealing with corruption from the messenger to the very top in terms of organizations or hierarchy. We are looking at children who are on the streets. We are looking at families. Some of them are even sleeping in tents, as it were, and we haven't dealt with all these problems. We are just concentrating on something that may not necessarily affect us physically, or like you heard Alfred summarize, education.
That's very amusing. If 93% of us believe that this is affecting us and is going to affect us, how can somebody who is clearly in the minority have a worldview which is different from the reality of the rest of us? In any case, you just made the absolute point. There are those of us who have been dealing with these issues of corruption every day, talking about what we need to do. And we find this also as an equally important issue. I remember during COVID, when some of us felt that, look, these vaccines were not good for us. I was part of the coalition. In fact, the president of the Coalition for Public Health and Justice, which was raising concerns about how we needed to be sure that these vaccines were safe for people. So if somebody hasn't raised his voice against many other things, and he's only finding use to criticize some of us, I think that is, I should tell you a story in itself. I don't think that Uncle Sam's voice was heard on other issues, and so this is not the time to try and say some things are more important than others. I don't think that kind of argument will wash.
You don't think that kind of argument will wash, but let's look at the issue that may affect whether or not this bill gets to see the light of day, as in it's becoming law. I'm sure you followed the proceedings in court today. The Supreme Court has, as it were, adjourned the cases indefinitely. We spoke to Martin Pebu, a private legal practitioner, who is concerned that we may not be able to finish this case within the next 6 months. The court will be going on vacation. You have an election ahead of you. Parliament will be resuming. A lot of, natural processes that are going to take place. Are you concerned?
Well, I think they are legitimate. And indeed, the coalition, we had an emergency meeting yesterday to map out the way forward. And in that meeting, we heard that the judiciary was going to trigger the process today, which was, in my view, fortuitous, because our starting point was going to be what is the judicial arm of government doing to make sure that the concerns of Ghanaians are being addressed. So we, at the moment, will be looking at the next 2-3 weeks. We figure that by the 21st, 22nd, the submissions would have been done and the CJ would have been apprised of them, and probably a further date to be fixed. I think it's at that point that we will know which of the strategies we have mapped out we will deploy or not. So yes, there is a legitimate concern, but in the same way that on the 28th of February, there was a consensus passing of the bill in Parliament, who knows what will happen next?
Who knows what will happen next? We wait to see what will happen next. Thank you very much, Adam Senanu. He's co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption. He's also with Advocates for Christ. Alfred.
Indeed, you're so live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Also, across the world on 3news.com. We're on Facebook at 3FM 927. Another issue of public concern is that the Ghana Health Service is reacting to this news of the withdrawal of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines worldwide for rare blood clot issues. Now, Ghana was the first to receive, if you recall, some 600,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine at the height of the pandemic. Some news reports indicate that the vaccine manufacturer is withdrawing the vaccines over concerns about its potential to cause rare blood clots. Well, the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaje, says information available indicates the company is pulling out due to a business decision and nothing to do with its health implications for that matter. Take a listen to him.
The complication, what I've read, is nothing that was ever hidden. What we said that was a very rare condition. What I have read from the report is that they are withdrawing for commercial reasons, in the sense that they are superior, probably, vaccines in the market. And so if you're in a market that you may not be able to compete, why produce something when others will go for some other brand? And for me, that is the message I get from the decision. It's not because it's dangerous, it's simply because, all vaccines have side effects, one way or the other. But their decision is that, look, if I'm selling something and someone brings in a more superior brand into the market and probably even cheaper, why do I stay in the market if a producer is going to use? And I think that's there. And you say, as a company, they have the right to do that. To take I think if you remember very well, these were all things that we said. But we said they were very, very rare. Have you taken paracetamol before? You just take a leaflet and read the side effects of paracetamol. There's no medicine on earth that doesn't have some side effects. But how frequent is it? How is it rare? Is it common? If it's very common, the system will not even allow it on the market at all.
And you heard the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaje. Well, his stance has been corroborated by an officer with the WHO, that's the WHO country office, Dr. Michelle Adjacent.
Information out there states that it's due to commercial reasons. That's why the manufacturers are pulling out. And there are other vaccines out there that is as we speak, the reason they are pulling out is there's availability of alternatives, therefore making it economically not viable. That's why AstraZeneca is being pulled out.
So the blood clot is false?
Well, that has been the story long ago. It's been there. That story has been there. But if you compare the advantages of the vaccines vis-a-vis some of these side effects, there was still a very big advantage in vaccinating. But the story now, they are pulling out because of commercial reasons. So together with FDA, the ministry, the Ghana Health Service, will definitely make sure that.
And you had the WHO country officer there, Dr. Michael Jabing.
Let's go on the telephone lines, Beatrice,
yes.
Shall we? Professor Godfrey Binka is a professor of clinical epidemiology and a public health consultant. In fact, Professor Binka has extensive research on this matter, and thankfully he's joining us on the telephone. Professor Binka, it's good to have you. It's been a while. Good evening to you.
Good evening. How are you, Alfred?
I'm doing well. I hope you're well too.
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Now, this is the explanation from the Ghana Health Service that, you know what, this AstraZeneca withdrawal from the market is not about anything to do with its health implications or reactions, blood clot and so on. It's because the company is taking a business decision. Based on what you know, is this really the fact?
Well, thank you very much. And there are two sides to this equation. First of all, it's true that their side effects have been identified, which is clots in blood and also thrombocytopenia, the decrease in the platelets in the blood. And those, remember, they were all given emergency authorization. And I don't think company got registration.
Hello, President Menga?
Yes.
I'm losing you. If it's possible, you could maybe reposition so that we get a stable line to you. Perfect.
So I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly now.
Yeah. So the company got authorization for the emergency use, which led it to ship some of the vaccines to Ghana, if you remember.
Yes, I do.
But it was also selling these vaccines in the European Union, in the UK, and the rest of Europe. And the major places that got these vaccines were India, Africa, and parts of Europe. Virtually no vaccines were sent to the US. At the moment, they have identified these CTS side effects, which actually happens with not only this particular vaccine, but it affects all the other vaccines. I'm worried about the Johnson & Johnson one also, which is of the same kind of vaccine. But what has prompted this is that in Europe, their systems are very stringent, and there's a class action suit against them where 50 candidates, 50 people who got the vaccine have issued a class action because of the side effects that they found on this TSS, and are claiming £100 million. So that goes into the commercial aspect. At the moment, most of the countries in Europe are no longer taking the AstraZeneca. If you remember, there was a stop in the production, and we even didn't struggle to get some of our vaccines. Europe is using the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. Those are the two vaccines that have actually been used very much in Europe. So yes, there is a side effect that one will expect when you use this in large numbers. In fact, the production of AstraZeneca is estimated about 3 billion doses that were produced, and they claim it saved over 6 million lives. So now when the risks are higher than the benefits, the first thing to do is to withdraw it. So that's why they are withdrawing it.
Doc, Beatrice here. We heard Dr. Kumar Abuaji, and he said that it's not necessarily because of this supposed rare blood clot issues, but for business purposes. But if you look at international press reports, for instance, The Independent is saying that AstraZeneca is withdrawing COVID-19 vaccines after admitting it can cause rare blood clots. I'm just wondering why you think Dr. Kumar Abuaji will be telling us that it's purposely because of business reasons and not necessarily what I just read to you.
Yeah, but maybe Dr. Kumar Abuaji hasn't read all the stories around it. This has become a huge story. The first class action of 50 people has started, and you know what this happens. Immediately they win that £100 million. You can imagine the number of people who are going to line up to take the company to court. So these are the issues. Even in Ghana here, we did report one case in the Volta region. The University of Health and Allied Sciences did report a case by as CTS. He called it blood uremic syndrome. But finally, they found out that the case report was that of the tuberculosis that was caused by the vaccine. So yes, but these two things play together. If the rare effects have not been identified, they will not stop the production. But the rare effects have shown up, and we must know that even in Ghana, we stopped getting the vaccine, if you remember. And even now, we don't have the vaccine in stock. I think the vaccination that is going on now is on the Johnson & Johnson. And nobody is ordering the vaccine.
Are you surprised these reports are coming out, though? Lawsuits that are going to be started, those that have been started, and the news freely coming out that people are really experiencing the effect, because from the beginning, even we had the WHO denying at a point, then I think a week later there was a press conference kind of linking blood clots, people who were reporting earlier, and now they have even moved to the stage of suing people.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Unfortunately, in this pandemic, there were various groups that were heavily against the use of the vaccine. So they will be monitoring it to make sure that if they found anything, go back and exact their pound of pledge. So what the company did was the right thing. First, to stop production, and sometimes you are not very sure some of the politics within the system. AstraZeneca produced the vaccine with Oxford, but produced the vaccine in India at the Serum Vaccine Institute, and thereby produced it at a cheaper price, and then was able to sell it to us. So the competitors are also not just going to sit back and allow the cheaper vaccine to be used in the pandemic. So there are many other issues behind this that are not have been published anywhere.
So, so you can confirm indeed that this adverse effect of this unknown element called thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome is one that we should all be concerned about. I mean, it's a mouthful.
Yeah,
you know this.
It is something we should be concerned about, but we are almost out of the danger zone. This thing happens usually about 2 weeks after you have the dose.
Prof,
okay?
Yes.
After 2 weeks, you start having those pains and pains in your legs or in your chest and so on. So it is not after 2-3 years that you are going to find many cases of thrombocytopenia.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Professor Fred Binka is a professor of clinical epidemiology and a public health consultant joining us on this. Yeah, so it is there, you know.
Yes. You tried your best.
Thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome.
I think
TTS.
You tried.
Yeah, Bismarck can even do it better than I can, right? Yeah. Now let's go into business now, shall we? Bismarck is here. We're getting to business. And this report about Societe Generale withdrawing from the Ghanaian market has been disputed by the Societe Generale Ghana Managing Director, as to where the report came from. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break with the business news.
I just want to tell my mom that I love her. You know, she's been a great mom.
Sunday, the 12th of May, is the day set aside to celebrate Mother's Day. TV3 and 3FM 92.7 gives you the chance to make it memorable for Mama with the exclusive event Dining with Mama at the plush Tomrick Hotel, East Legon from 1 p.m. Time to celebrate your incredible mothers and mother figures. Win great prizes while enjoying delicious food and drinks, live band music, artiste performances,
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Kausa. Coming up, marginal decline in inflation to 25% prompts speculation on Bank of Ghana's policy rate adjustment. We'll bring you details. Thanks for your company. Now to our very first story. Inflation for the month of April 2024 declined marginally to 25% from the 25.8% recorded in March 2024. By this, the rate of inflation for the month of April 2024 slowed by 0.8%. According to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna-Inim, food inflation contributed to the overall drop in the rate of inflation as it recorded a rate of 26.8%, the lowest for 13 months, with non-food inflation of 23.5%.
In the month of April 2024, rate of inflation stood at 25.0%, indicating that between April 2023 and April 2024, general prices of goods and services went up by 25.0%. This 25.0% indicates a slowdown of 0.8 percentage points between the rate that was recorded in March 2024 of 25.8% relative to 25.0% for the month of April 2024. We saw a contrasting trend between food and non-food inflation, while we saw a decrease in non-food inflation from 29.6% to 26.8% for the month of April 2024. The reverse was the case for non-food inflation, as it increased from 22.6% to 23.5%. The rate of inflation of 26.8% that has been recorded for food inflation is the lowest in the last 13 months.
And that was government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna-Inim. Meanwhile, the marginal decline in inflation to 25% has brought to the fore speculation on Bank of Ghana's policy rate adjustment. Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, Professor Peter Korte, is however cautioning the Monetary Policy Committee to be cautious with the adjustment of its key lending rate to spur growth amid the upcoming general elections.
The central bank has been using its monetary policy tools, adjusting the policy rate as and when necessary. That also can have its negative repercussions on the private sector. It can increase the cost of lending. Interest rates might go up. So there's a limit to which the central bank can operate. A monetary policy can be very effective if it's in tandem with fiscal policy. So the government should also work towards ensuring a stable or relatively affordable cost of doing business. If businesses are overtaxed, that can create a challenge. If utilities and other things are increased, that can have knock-on effects on cost of doing business. So it lies in the bosom of the fiscal authorities as well as the monetary policy, to achieve this target. Monetary policy rates can be adjusted, just like Bank of Ghana is doing, as and when necessary, to mop up excess liquidity.
And that was economist and director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Korte. Management of French bank Société Générale Ghana has neither confirmed nor denied rumors of the bank's departure from the Ghanaian market. In the past few days, the bank has been grappling with mounting speculation of a possible exit. But speaking at his outfit's annual general meeting, Managing Director of SG Bank Ghana, Hakeem Uzani, declined to comment on the rumors.
It's important to mention and to remain to all our stakeholders and our shareholders that the news item being circulated in the media was not issued by the group nor by SG Canada. So we don't want to comment further, but really I insist on the fact that what has circulated in the papers is not by SG, is not by SG Canada. It's important to us to give you the context or to reiterate what our Société Générale Group CEO, Slavomir Akrofi, in line with the group strategic roadmap, has been saying constantly since September 2023. It's not new. The group is pushing a global review of its business portfolio, targeting a streamlined, more synergetic and efficient business model, while strengthening the group capital base.
And that was Managing Director of French bank Société Générale Ghana, Hakim Uzanin, ending the business news with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Thanks for your company. Sports is up next with Bill Lishen.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Let's start off from the local scene where Hearts of Oak have bounced back from their poor run of form to defeat Berekum Chelsea by 3-0 away from home. The goals came from Hamza Issa, Linda Mtange and Cisse Kasim to give Hearts of Oak that 3-0 victory over Berekum Chelsea. Now, the head coach of Hearts of Oak, that is Abubakar Ouattara, said this after the game.
I expect him to win by 3 goals. It's football. We can win 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, but we need a point. I tell you, it's the mental problem. The boys are starting to understand, because we have some people who want to pollute the mind of the boys, but now the boys are starting understanding. Just psychology.
That was Abubakar Ouattara, the head coach of Hearts of Oak. Now, let's listen to the head coach of Berekum Chelsea, who was the former head coach of Hearts of Oak, Samuel Boadu.
We got opportunity to score during the first half, but we squandered all the chances. That's the football. When you get opportunity and you misuse it, when it's time, when it comes back to you, definitely the opponent will be punished you. That's what.
The opponents will definitely punish you. Those are the words from Samuel Boadu, the former coach of Hearts of Oak and the current coach of Berekum Chelsea. But how does this result affect the standings of the Ghana Premier League? Let's look at the Samatex are on top with 52 points. Nations FC are second with 45. Accra Lions are third with 44. Aduana are fourth with 43. Mediama are fifth with 43. Instructorman are sixth with 42. Bechem United are 7th with 41. Berekum Chelsea are now 8th with 41. And BBNE Gold Stars are 9th with 40 points. Now, Hearts of Oak are 11th on the log with 38. Asante Kotoko are 10th with 40 points. And right at the bottom, we have Dreams FC, who are 16th with 32. Heart of Lions also have 32. And Real Tamale United have 28 points. So those are the standings for the Ghana Premier League after match day 29 ended. Let's move on to Europe, where the UEFA Champions League continues, with Real Madrid set to face Bayern Munich at the Bernabeu later tonight. Let's hear from the head coach of Real Madrid, Carlo Ancelotti, ahead of the game.
Simply try to show the best of ourselves, as we always have to do in a Champions League semi-final. We are very excited to play this match because we have another opportunity to reach another Champions League final. We are aware of the difficulties that will arise, and there will be many difficulties, as is normal in a Champions League semi-final. But we are very excited. We are good and excited. We will try to do the best we can tomorrow. I think we are not so optimistic, but we do have a great excitement, because this could be another magical night for us and our fans. But there is no excess of optimism, because we are aware of the difficulties we may encounter in the match.
It could be a magical night for the fans of Real Madrid later tonight. But also, let's hear from Thomas Tuchel, who is the manager of Bayern Munich, and he'll be relying on Harry Kane to get the goals for him.
Drinks a day. It's ridiculous.
How many?
It was very surprising. All the time I would go to the kitchen, he's on the coffee machine and taking a cappuccino. It's obviously good. I start doing it because, the guy looks healthy and is in good shape.
That was Thomas Tuchel, the manager of Bayern Munich, who is set to leave at the end of the season and will be hoping to get to the final of the Champions League if he beats Real Madrid. The current scoreline is 2-2 on aggregate. But here are the lineups for the two teams ahead of this big match. For Real Madrid, we have Andre Lunin in goal. In defense, we have Carvajal, Rudiger, Fernandes, and Mendy. In midfield, we have Valverde, Cruz, Tchouaméni, and Bellingham. In attack, we have Vinicius Jr. partnering with his fellow Brazilian, Rodrigo. For Bayern Munich, we have Manuel Neuer in goal. In defense, we have Mazraoui, De Ligt, Eric Dyer, and Joshua Kimmich. In midfield, we have Pavlovic, Laimar, Gnabry, Musiala, and Leroy Sané. In attack, we have Harry Kane, who will be leading Bayern Munich from the front. And of course, they will be hoping to get that result over Real Madrid. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen, and of course, Beatrice and Alfred are on standby with more on Hot Edition.
The country and even beyond. They are coming to take their place at the table of champions. It's not just a race, it is a movement. 3FM presents Tour du Ghana 2024. The all-deciding event, a tour of sheer endurance, grit, power, and perseverance. So seasoned riders, professionals, and leisure riders, mark your calendars for May 18, 2024. 3FM Tour du Ghana is back with a thrill. This year, start point is at the Media General Premises Kanda to the Scenic Emprise Town in the Eastern region. Join us in the fight against climate change, one pedal at a time. To confirm participation, register at a fee of 150 Ghana cedis for single riders and 100 Ghana cedis for each rider in a group of 10. Cyclists stand the chance of winning prizes worth 100,000 Ghana cedis. Your registration comes with personal accident cover, feeding and transportation. So grab your helmet, saddle up, and join us on the 18th of May for the 3FM Tour to Ghana Sustainable Ride for Climate Change. For more details, contact 0532 200 927 or 0531 100 927. Let's pedal together for a greener and brighter future. 3FM Tour du Ghana.
3FM 92.7.
It's 10 minutes after 6. If you hear this, you know exactly what we're getting into. And it is campaign trail here on your Election Command Center. Also on 3FM 927 on Facebook. After initial setback on day one of the limited voter registration exercise, day two has seen a significant improvement. The Electoral Commission came under a barrage of criticism following delays and technical challenges encountered on Tuesday across registration centers, while some blamed the electoral management body for reneging on its responsibilities, leading to undue delays Others accuse the Electoral Commission of machinations to disenfranchise would-be voters. Well, the story was different on day 2, at least from where we monitored so far. And let's take a listen to some of the reactions that we got on day 2, specifically from the various centers that we visited here on your election command center, and the concerns that, according to some of the voters, have been addressed so far.
It's going as we want. The only challenges is what the people are doing, trying to intimidate the guys from registering. That is the only thing we are opposed to. Okay. Yes, anybody that comes here, we will not challenge anybody. We don't want anybody to feel that he's not a Ghanaian. So we will go and sack the person from the line. We will not do that.
Day one of the exercise.
To take a challenge from, we will challenge them. Okay. Those we think are not from the constituency, we will do that at the right time. Okay. But as for them, they look at your face and determine where you are coming from. Okay. And that is not what the EC law stands for.
Yesterday, there was a network challenge, a technical challenge that delayed the process or affected the smooth registration. How was day 2 like?
Today we haven't experienced that issue. We haven't experienced that. I'm hoping that we'll continue like this, the way things are going.
Day 2, how is day 2 been for you?
Day 2, from the beginning, it was okay. Though today the machines are okay, they are working all right. It's not like yesterday. But what I observed that there are some people here, some registrants here that, to me, when they are asking them questions, they cannot express themselves.
Well, those are some of the reactions today on day 2. And let's go on to the telephone, Beatrice. Reverend Dr. Alfred is the co-chair of the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO. They've deployed thousands of, in fact, hundreds of observers across some centers. He's joining us on the telephone. Reverend Dr. Alfred, it's good to have you. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Thank you so much. Now, first of all, you witnessed, if I say your observers witnessed what happened on day 1. What's the report on day 2 that you're receiving?
Our observation is that day 2 is much, much better. Unlike yesterday and all the chaos that we all saw, by about 10 a.m. today, 98% of all the registration centers across the country have commenced the registration process. 77% of the EC registration officials were already present by 7:30. So it's a much improvement over yesterday.
I see. Now, there was another issue about the political parties, some of them raising concerns about people being bussed from, other constituencies to a particular constituency to have them vote there, even though they are not living in those constituencies as well. Did you get those reports?
The ongoing limited registration exercise to jeopardize the...
We've seen and heard it, but it's not been verified, so I cannot speak much about it. I've seen it in the press and in the media. I've seen it, but our reporters have not as yet clarified that position for us.
Rev, Beatrice here. Yesterday we spoke to Mr. Albert Ahin, and he told us that CODEO had issues with some accreditation for some of its members. Are you able to tell us whether those issues have been resolved?
Yeah, most of that has been resolved. They were supposed to have gone there, but they were not permitted by the EC officials, or the setup was not friendly to them. But by today, almost all our observers said they were welcome to where they were supposed to be.
So for the areas which are still not resolved, how are you getting information to verify whether or not things are going on smoothly?
Well, ours is a sample. So most of that, at 10 to 12, 89% of the registration centers were observed by our people. So we think by the time we receive the 6 p.m. report, we should be able to tell whether all of them were allowed to do what they had gone there to do.
Moving forward, though, what would you say are the expectations of Codeo? I mean, this like a 3-week exercise.
It's taken off quite well, I should say. I mean, normally Ghanaians are known for their late turnout for things, but this one took off in Vim. Even though there were teething problems yesterday, we've seen that it's being resolved somehow. We believe that the system should get better. In terms of the registration, it should get better with the day coming. Now, if there are any challenges or any people who are lost as to where they should go, within a couple of days, I believe those things must be settled. The other incidents, we also believe that the initial panic, the joining of the queues and all of those ones, hopefully will ease out for us to have a smooth registration exercise. That's our hope and our wish.
So that will be on the part of the Electoral Commission. I know earlier Alfred asked you the question about political parties. I want to ask you in a different way, as it were, concerning your expectations of them throughout this exercise.
Well, they are some of the key players. Incidentally, our people tell us that observers that only the two big parties, NDC and NPP, have their observers in most of the polling stations. The other political parties are not showing up. Then we're hearing about these busing and all the other things that we are yet to confirm about whether people are being double. I mean, in terms of those who are vouching for those who are to register, we have some hints that some of those things are going on. I cannot confirm at this point from our observers whether these are actually true, but there's enthusiasm. The political parties are rallying people to go and register. I saw people who call somebody's name as being responsible for busing them to go and vote. We do not know what that means at this moment, whether it's from his own constituency or his own catchment area, that he brought people there to go and make sure that they vote and go back or not. Some of these things are still up in the air now, but all that we know is that there's enthusiasm. People are eager to vote, and they are being mobilized to go and vote. Sorry, to go and register, not vote, I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll end it here. Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Fred Digbe. He is chairman of Coalition of Domestic Election Observers. Thank you for giving us your assessment and expectations of this ongoing limited voter registration exercise. Meanwhile, the running mate to the John Mahama campaign, to John Mahama actually, is advising the Electoral Commission to take into consideration a decision to extend the exercise to cater for delays. Professor Nana Jane Opokwajuman made the call during a tour of some centres in Accra.
As we all know, the machines weren't working. Many places hadn't started on time, as was advertised, and therefore today is much better. And my hope is that it continues, as it should. And in terms of yesterday, I know there are machines and so on, but one would not have expected that on such a large scale, there'll be consistent problems. So definitely, if there were places, as I hear, where
3FM 92.7
registered, or where very, very few people were registered because of challenges with the machines, then definitely the EC must make up for that time. If it's an extra day, it should be restored. Whatever it is, if it's a couple of hours, it should be extended to the following day.
The position you have is that, one, the first day was a chaotic one and a frustrated one. However, the EC should start considering an extension of the sort to cater for those who have it.
The days are allocated for a reason. Therefore, if there's one day short, I'm sure there'll be a reason. And it's only fair, I think, that that day is restored to places where the machines never worked, where nobody was ever registered. It may be a very useful suggestion.
From what has transpired yesterday, was only a statement the EC issued. Should they be find themselves in a position where they are listening more than just sticking to their guns?
Listen, it won't be a a new advice is being given over and over again. When you are working for people, I mean, you must walk with them. And the walk is smooth when we all speak in the same language. If people are saying, we can't hear you, people are saying, we don't understand you, then the dialogue must take a different form, just so that they understand you. And your work is much easier when that happens. Because what's the point of creating unnecessary conflict between yourself and the people you are serving? It doesn't help anyone.
And you heard the NDC's vice presidential candidate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. Let's check the situation on the ground. Yvonne Nekwe is our Eastern Regional correspondent. She's been monitoring constituencies and areas within Koforidua. Yvonne, what can you tell us?
Well, Beatrice, after a poor showing on the first day across the Electoral Commission's constituencies working, today has been fairly good. Although we still have issues with network, over 3 hours students were in the queue waiting that they could have access to their voters' ID card. Well, it's today, and so they're determined to return tomorrow. We don't know what will happen if the issue still persists and delays longer than we're seeing. It means that people would have to go back and forth each and every day, doing a lot of traveling from where they're coming from, high cost of fares and all that, to ensure that they're getting their voters' ID card. The EC does admit that it's been struggling to be efficient to get the people to have their ID card. It's just hoping that they'll be lucky for the rest of the day to ensure that the exercise is smooth. Meanwhile, one person is an investigation for double registration by the Eastern Regional Police today.
All right, thank you very much, Yvonne Nekwe. She's our correspondent in the Eastern region. Let's go to the Upper East region. Castro Senyala is standing by for us as well. Castro, where are you, or where have you been since morning? Can you tell us what you gathered?
Right, Beatrice, the registration exercise, which started yesterday, May 7, is not ending anytime soon. Since morning here in the Damango constituency, the challenge continues to persist. We are told that other parts of the Savannah region equally experience same challenge.
Election observers are worried about the continuous network challenges. In a related development,
issues of network connectivity and that of the late arrival of some activation codes. Today, quite a number of people were able to successfully go through the process and had their cards issued to them, and they were so happy that finally they've been able to have their names enrolled onto the voter register ahead of the 2024 general elections in December. Beatrice, let me add quickly that whilst the EC is trying to see how best they can resolve the challenges region-wide, the concerns have been that if the EC doesn't work hard to resolve these issues and they keep reoccurring, that may impact negatively on the success of the exercise. But aside from that, there hasn't been any major challenge, especially regarding security issues, as there have always been. I mean, all the centers I've visited, the police presence there has always been improved and top notch, and everything is going on smoothly, Beatrice.
Thank you very much. Castro Senyala reporting live from the Upper East region. There's a statement coming through from the Electoral Commission dated today, the 8th of May 2024, and it is titled "Error in Registration Slip Does Not Affect Voters' Eligibility." It's a short statement signed by Michael Buadu, Acting Director, Public Affairs. I'll just go through that for you. It says the attention of the Electoral Commission has been drawn to a registration slip circulating on social media indicating that the bearer of the registration slip registered at Kaswa in the Central region. The registration slip, however, gives the bearer's district at Ayawaso North in the Greater Accra region. This error does not appear on the applicant's voter's ID card. It reflects on the registration slip, which only serves as a reference should an applicant seek to replace his or her voter ID card. The error does not affect the eligibility of the voter. We entreat citizens to remain steadfast and repose their confidence and trust in the Commission to deliver on its mandate. Election 2024, your vote, your future. So that's the statement there coming from the Electoral Commission here on Hot Edition. Thank you very much for joining us today on Hot Edition. That's how we end the program. Our top stories. Heated exchanges characterized day one of Supreme Court hearing of 2 cases filed against anti-LGBTQ bill as Chief Justice allows full media coverage. We brought you some analysis. Also, Catholic Bishops' Conference is worried about the failure by state agencies to educate the public about the dangers of LGBTQ activities. We brought you an exclusive interview with Samuel Kujeto on that. And also, Ghana Health Service allays fears over the withdrawal of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines worldwide due to rare blood clot concerns. My name is Beatrice. Thank you for joining us today. I did this with Alfred Ocansey. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Good evening.